I thought it'd be kind of cool to do some tutorials on dissecting some interface elements, especially with the whole craze of iPads and iPods and all the mobile devices and everything. Interface kind of design, I guess you can call it, has become a lot more popular. So I'm beta testing this one iPad app for Kelby training. And I thought the whole leather texture was pretty cool. There's another tutorial on the stitching, so I'll start off in this tutorial though with the leather texture here and how to do that little beveled area. Now I just put a green spot over it just to make it look like we're starting from scratch. But the first thing to do would be to make a shape. So we can take our pen tool, which is probably the easiest way to make a freeform shape, and then come up here and choose the paths option. Okay, and then what I'll do is that let's follow the original design here of the shape that we have, and I'm just going to click, and then let's scroll down to the bottom, click again, come up here to the top, click one more time there, and then we're gonna click along this semi kind of diagonal line that we have here. I'm gonna click once before the curve. And then let's do it one more time. I'm going to click once before the curve, and then I'm going to click once after the curve. And this time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click and drag, because what that does is it adds direction to it. It curves it, and it sends the direction. You can see whichever way that this little handle goes here is the direction of my next point, which is what I want, because I want it to go straight and end right there. Now, we have a path. We actually don't need a path anymore. I just did it because it's an easy way to draw something precise. We can press Command-Enter on the Mac or Control-Enter on a PC, and that'll turn it over into a selection. So at this point, we have the area that we want. So let's just pretend, again, that we're back at this blank interface where we don't have the leather. And we need a texture. The easiest way to do this is either take a picture of leather, go onto a stock photo website. I used one from iStockPhoto. Fotolia.com was another good one. And just do a search for leather texture. You'll find more than you could ever possibly want. And download it that way. It's a lot faster. For a few bucks, you'll save a lot of time and money in the long run. All right, so let's select all and copy. We're going to go into here, and we're going to paste our texture in onto the top layer. I lost my selection, of course, in doing so, but we'll get that back in just a second. And it's, of course, too big here, so we'll go into Free Transform and make it a lot smaller right down here. All right. That's looking pretty good. Enter or return. Let's zoom back in. And now we can bring our selection back up. I can't bring my selection. Okay, so we're going to undo. Let's undo back here. Come back over into this image. And what we're going to do is go into Edit. We're going to go down to Paste Special, and we're going to paste into. We're going to paste into the selection that we already created. All right, so it puts the texture on a layer, and it also puts a layer mask automatically there. So now we only see the part of the texture that we want to. We don't see the rest of it that we had that was over our image. It's obviously too big, so let's click on the layer thumbnail. I'm going to go into Free Transform, and let's just resize this. Okay, we don't need it to be so big, so we'll just knock it down. Right about there is looking pretty good. And there we go. So now our texture is inside the image. The next part of this is we're going to use the pen tool one more time, and we're going to zoom in. We need to make a little bit of a bevel. Remember, if you looked at the original, it's got this kind of lifted area here. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to do it with the pen tool again. We're just going to click, click, click and drag just like we did before, and that creates this curved area. And then we're just going to click right down here. So now we have this line that goes along with the curve of our object here. In fact, I'm going to undo a couple times. Let me try this. Just going to try to bring it in a little bit more so it looks a little bit more even. There we go. So that's better. Now, we're going to use a very cool little tool for this. If you go into the Paths palette, you'll see that there's an option here, Stroke Path with Brush. It's this little button right at the bottom. What it does is it strokes the current path with a brush. Well, I don't necessarily want to use a brush tool, but I can also use my dodge tool. The dodge tool is a brush. So if I set the range to shadows, the exposure to about 35, 40% or so, all right, and I'm going to create a brand new layer to put this on. We're just going to press Command or Control J because we want to dodge the leather texture. You'll see why we do this in a second, this new layer. But we'll duplicate the layer. We go back to our paths palette and watch what happens. I click the button and it makes it a little brighter. I click it again, brighter. The more I click it, the more it's using that dodge tool right along that path. And I'm eventually going to click it so it's too bright. That's because I can come back over here to the layers palette, and now I can just reduce the opacity. And now I can fine tune it a little bit. Rather than trying to get these settings exactly perfect, I can just fine tune the opacity of the layer, and that'll make it a lot easier. All right, and that's looking pretty good right about there. Hit the delete key, delete the path, and now we have this nice little bevel. You can see it's on its own layer. That's before, that's after. If we were to finish off the leather texture, because I'm going to show you how to create the stitching in another tutorial. If we're going to finish off the leather texture, what I would do here is double click on the topmost leather layer, add a drop shadow to it, take that drop shadow right from the bottom, bring your distance setting into about 2 pixels, bring your size setting down to about 2 pixels, reduce the opacity to about 50. All I want, let's bring in so you can see the preview. We'll turn the preview off and then back on. I'm even going to zoom out here. All I want is to add a little bit of depth and dimension to that. And you can just kind of tweak this. You can see as you move the size and the distance there that you'll be able to see that more. Okay, but just a little bit of depth and dimension, not too much. I just want to make it look like it's lifted up just slightly off of that edge of the page. Okay, so some pretty cool things that you can start doing with interfaces once you have a texture, how you can make those textures, come to life and make them really appear as if they belong on the image.